Hello, my name is Chad Ryan, and welcome to the Washington Wrap, a 10-minute show where each episode is focused on a single issue or a single question about the Washington football team, where us, your hosts, give you all our opinions and our analysis and our expertise as best we can. Today I'm joined again by Robbie Duncan, former ODU lineman, and Felix Trammell, 1340 Fox Sports beat writer in the DMV. Today's episode is going to focus on, now that we've been through the draft and now that we've been through summer free agency, what holes remain on the Washington football team roster? We have 10 minutes to try to wrap it up. Let's get stuck into it. Alrighty, Robbie, first question to you, my friend, and it's a pretty simple question. Now that we've been through 7 rounds of the draft and been through free agency, is there any glaring holes in this Washington football team roster to you?
Well, for me, I think the tight end position, the depth overall is in question for me. I like a lot what Logan Thomas did. I'm very excited about the potential Sammis Reyes has. And then they drafted John Bates, the guy who's not really much for receiving threat. He's a blocker. So in that regard, the position's filled in a little bit more, but there's still a lot of questions as receivers. It's going to be a while before Sammis Reyes can be considered a decent route runner, or, I mean, I'm sure he can catch, but there's a lot of questions with that guy. And you got some other journeymen behind them that are going to be fighting for a spot. So for me, that position is still pretty much in question. So that's what I would go with. Yeah.
And Felix, I see you nodding there. I'm guessing you're sort of on the same page as Robbie there. Tight end is a position you want to see a bit more attention paid to.
Yeah, I agree. We have a lot of converted players there, and so there's just not a lot of game played there. Logan Thomas, who was exceptional. I mean, he was an Iron Man, and it was great to see. But I'm not sure how many times you can expect him to play all 16 games. And there was numerous games where he played 100% of the offensive snaps, and that's hard to do in the NFL. So he's a converted guy. Reyes is a converted basketball player. Bates is probably the most natural tight end, but he probably lacks the most catching ability. Then you have like Tyrone Swoops and everybody. These are converted guys who are trying to be in the league. So that would be the biggest question mark as far as a team perspective, because they did a lot of good filling other spots and even getting luxury picks in other places. But tight end would be the question mark for us, because tight end has become such a dynamic part of offenses, catching the ball, and that's something that we really need. So Logan Thomas was great, but you always want to have more than one player.
Yeah, and I think Logan Thomas is someone that Ryan Fitzpatrick especially is going to love. But, we have Terry McLaurin, we have Curtis Samuel, guys who are going to stretch the field, open the field up. So that middle of the field could be wide open for Logan Thomas. But, I mean, imagine how open it would be if we had a second tight... Like, if we ran 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end packages, and we had a bona fide second tight end, like, the opposition defenses, that's a matchup nightmare. So I agree with you guys 100% on tight end. Let me throw another one at you, though. Running back. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Antonio Gibson. He's RB1. This is not a slight against Antonio Gibson. But he battled some turf toe last year. Turf toe is one of those things that unfortunately can recur quite a bit. And behind Antonio Gibson on our depth chart, I don't love any of the names there. There's a few interesting names in free agency at running back, and I don't know if I'd want Washington football to sign someone like Todd Gurley, because A, he's got some health issues, but B, I think I don't want someone who's going to take away opportunities from Antonio Gibson to add to his game and to develop more. But I want someone that if Antonio Gibson needs to take a spell, if he misses time, the offense can still really, really run through the ground game as well. So in terms of running back, that's a really interesting position for me. I know Ron Rivera was saying after the draft this week, he still thinks there's about 4 positions on the roster he wants to see filled. I have a sneaky suspicion that running back might be one of them. Guys like Peyton Barber and J.D. McKissick have contributed in blips and in patches when they've had their chance. But, I don't know. I want 2 quality running backs in the modern NFL, and I feel like we have 1. Felix, you're nodding. How am I doing?
I get the argument. I think the best run of the offense was when Gibson hit his stride and McKissick was there when we were really doing that kind of Batman Robin, that sort of double running back thing. I think that first Cowboy game was a good example of it. I mean, we just eviscerated them with those two back sets, and so I get where you're coming from, and I do think they might pick up a body going in training camp, a veteran that can come in and be that spell. Because we all know that Antonio Gibson's a converted running back himself. So he's,
It's a great point.
The 16 game, 17 game season, that's going to wear it down. So it's good to have another back. Jaret Patterson can play. Don't sleep on him. And I think he'll be more of a hybrid between McKissick and Gibson. Like, he's not as big as Gibson, but he does possess the speed, but he has good hands too. And he can do that McKissick role as well. So I know he went undrafted, but the value of running backs is so weird in today's NFL.
And that seems to be more about his size.
There's no way he's not one of the 250 best players in college. That's not accurate. He was. So the draft just works funky that way. But I believe it's a good question mark. But I think an outside veteran, a Gurley, I don't want to say Adrian Peterson, but somebody that just can be a bulldozer. And that's what you effectively need in November, December, is a bulldozer. So they're probably bringing another body in.
Yep. And not a lot of guys, on Patterson can say that they've scored 8 touchdowns in a game before. So, yeah, that's an impressive resume. Robbie, the ground game runs through the running backs and through the offensive line. And anytime we talk about offensive line, your ears prick up. So, in terms of the ground game, are you seeing any gaps there, whether it's running back or is there a position on that offensive line, or whether it's a blocking tight end? We go back to what we were saying at the top. Like, in terms of solidifying the ground game, where's your head at?
I mean, I wouldn't be against bringing in another running back to compete, but I do think they're very high on Jaret Patterson. I mean, the fact that he's the only guy that they signed after the draft tells me they feel pretty confident about their roster overall. So the guys that they do sign are most likely just going to be extra competition, guys that they want to see what they can do, but not necessarily, win a starting spot. I think they've already found their presumed starters for this year. So, but in terms of the ground game, I think the offensive line's been pretty shored up. I mean, with the pick of Samuel Cosmi in the second round, I'm very high on Cornelius Lucas and what he did. I've said that last week when we recorded our first episode. I think the depth is very solid right now. You got a 3-way competition for left guard. Brandon Scherf's got the right guard spot locked down. So does Chase Roulier with the center spot. And Morgan Moses isn't going to get you beaten out by somebody. You got really good depth. And then there's still Keith Ismail, who we haven't mentioned yet, as a backup center and maybe as a backup interior guy for the other 2 guard spots if need be. So in terms of depth for the running game on the offensive line, I feel very confident in what we got. We got Eric Flowers now too. So, I mean, and they just need to execute. I think that depth-wise and position-wise, maybe another running back, but I think Jaret Patterson's very good. Like, I am very impressed with his vision and his shiftiness. He's not very. I don't think he's very, very fast. I think he can get chased down in the NFL, but he balances or counters that with his vision and his contact balance. So smooth and tough to bring down for as small as he is. I think he's going to bring some very good vision to the position. Because I think one of the knocks on Antonio Gibson right now is that his vision's not quite where it needs to be yet, and that comes with his inexperience as a converted running back. So I think that's what we're going to be getting with Jaret Patterson. I think he's a very good shot at making the 53.
All right, boys. We have about 1 minute 20 left. We are crushing this today. So real quick thoughts to end up. The position that's most important on a football team, on any football team: quarterback. No quarterback drafted, no quarterback taken in free agency. We have Ryan Fitzpatrick, obviously. I guess you say he was taken in free agency, and still Heineke. Comfortable going into the season with those 2 guys in the quarterback room, or do you need a third?
I think Allen will be the third guy. Kyle Allen. I think Heineke proved that he can play, and he needed the opportunity. And the offense it thrived under him. And So it looked way more explosive than it did with Kyle Allen. It just call a spade a spade. So I think they're comfortable with that, with Fitzpatrick being the main guy, Heineke backing him up. Um, I think I think Ron Rivera was going to build the roster first and get the QB last. And I think that's what the draft showed us. The guy there didn't reach for a second, third round guy, and kept putting blocks in on the roster. So I think they'll be fine going in with Fitzpatrick, Heineke, Allen in that order.
All right, 10 seconds. Robbie, I guess this is a quick answer. 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks for 2021?
I say 2. Use that roster spot for other positions. Let Heineke and Allen battle it out for the backup spot.
I love it, gentlemen. We have wrapped that up in 10 minutes. We have just gone like a couple of seconds over, but I'll say that we beat the buzzer just to give ourselves a strength-based approach and a strength-based analysis for how we did this week. Anyone watching this video on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you can see their Twitter handles under their names. But just in case you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or Google Play or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, you can get me on Twitter at ChadwicoTWW for the Washington Wrap. You can get Robbie on Twitter at Robbie Duncan OL. And you can get Felix on Twitter at HTTR and Blessed. Make sure you're following the Washington Wrap on any social media platform, whether it's YouTube, subscribe to us there, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, or as I said, follow us individually on Twitter. Felix, Robbie, we've wrapped it up in 10 minutes. The Washington football team roster is in an interesting place, and we will keep following it throughout the 2021 season. Boys, good job.